So I'm in history class and no one can leave until we've copied down an entire paragraph about King Canute. Of course, I finish first because I want to get the hell out of there and go to lunch. I hand my book in to the teacher, the kind of teacher that you don't want to piss off. He looks at me and he says, "Are you mad, boy?" I look at him, he looks at me, I look at him. I don't know what he's thinking. I'm thinking I've done the work first. What are you talking about? He goes, "We'll talk about this later." Just so happens it's parents' evening that night. So I've got to come back to the school with my parents and sit down with all the teachers. Gets to the point where I'm back with that teacher, history teacher. He says to my mum, "I think your son's got a problem with dyslexia." He hands the book of containing the paragraph that I'd written earlier, and every time King Canute's name was written, I'd written King Cunt. Yes. What's going on out there? Dealing with dyslexia. So what's dyslexia? I mean, you hear about it and it's like, yeah, he's got dyslexia, but what is it? So I looked online and found all of this stuff that says what dyslexia is, and they all say, oh, it's like a reading disability or it's a learning difficulty or whatever. That's not my understanding of dyslexia, so I'm gonna make my own definition right here, right now. When I was younger, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Basically, I couldn't read at school. My mum was actually a special needs teacher in schools, and she dealt with the people that had dyslexia all the time. She broke it down to me, probably the best I've ever heard anyone talk about dyslexia. The way I process information is different to most people. So generally, information is given to us, presented to us in linear writing form. So there's words and we read them, and that's how we get our information. But people with dyslexia, that's not the optimum way for them to accept the information, to process that information and understand it. I understand things better if I see something or if I hear something. My brain wants to see words more as pictures, and it tries to make them pictures. So I will often see letters the wrong way round. I'll see the shape of words more than I see the actual letters in the words that then describe something. Growing up, reading was very difficult. When I mean very difficult, it was such an effort. I'd have to put so much concentration into it that it would be not worth it for me. I would do anything I could do to get out of reading. Now, when I finished secondary school or high school, I hadn't read a book from start to finish. I hadn't read a whole book. So when I finished high school, I was told I had the reading age of about a 10-year-old, what 10-year-old should be reading. But I was very creative in finding ways to understand stuff without reading it. I would get my sisters or my mum to read stuff to me. I would ask friends, I would cheat, I would copy homework. Turns out, that's what most people with dyslexia do. They learn to cheat in an effect. And I kind of still use those techniques now when I'm reading signs, when I get something to read. I use all these other tools and means of which to get the information out with doing the minimum reading possible. I learned to skim read, scan read, and in recent years, I've started using more technology stuff that reads stuff for me. Dyslexia is not something you cure and cover. This is how your brain works. So you're gonna live with this for the rest of your life. This is how you are. So you either adapt or you fail. And the interesting thing about statistics with dyslexia is 15% to 20% or so, depending on where you look online, of people in the general population of the world have dyslexia. So 15 to 20%. But when it comes to people behind bars, it's like 40 to 80%. If you've got dyslexia and you haven't figured out how to get through your exams and stuff like that without reading, and also you maybe have low confidence and you don't like being outed in public, in class, like being asked to read out loud in class, that's a nightmare. All of these things can have negative effects on you. I'm not saying these are the only factors, but these are things that contribute to perhaps what might become a criminal. Teachers and stuff like that might not have understood people with dyslexia and just thought, this guy's dumb, this guy's lazy, go on, get in detention. Here's the interesting part and the intriguing part. If you do manage to conquer your dyslexia, you might have built a load of tools and skill sets to problem solve, to get around issues, whatever, that makes it ideal for you to be successful in life in general. After the school system, there's masses of successful people with dyslexia, especially top CEOs, billionaires, millionaires, etc. So who are these top guys with dyslexia? Henry Ford, everyone knows the Ford motor car, huge. You got Richard Branson behind Virgin, huge. Steve Jobs, huge. You got Walt Disney, look at his empire. Muhammad Ali, he's a master of finding another way to win. Everyone knows that he beats you with his mind first. He was a quick talker, he used charisma, he used all of this stuff. Those are the kinds of tools that someone with dyslexia utilizes for the shortfall that is not being able to process information the way everyone else processes information. Magic Johnson, this is a guy that is creative on the basketball court like no one else, pulling passes out where people don't see. But the mad thing about it is not only did he master basketball, but when he finished basketball, he mastered entrepreneurship, and he's now one of the richest men, or richest black men in America, if not the richest black man in America. Andy Warhol, he's an artist, creative, and often the creative side of you is pushed out when the linear reading, accounting, and standard way is rejected. Agatha Christie, I mean, this is a huge author. And when you can't read, you don't learn how to write well. You don't learn punctuation and all that stuff the way everyone else does. It has a knock-on effect. So for a writer to be dyslexic is incredible and a real achievement. Benjamin Zephaniah, he's a poet. This is stuff you're not supposed to be able to do if you have dyslexia, but these guys have found a way, especially Agatha Christie, Benjamin Zephaniah, for them to be people that have stuff that is presented in writing form is particularly impressive. If you have dyslexia, recognize what your skills are and utilize them. Do what you need to do. It's not going to go away. A specific recommendation would be to read Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath. It's all about misfits and people that don't fit in society and stuff like that, and there's a whole bit on dyslexia. And as he was going through all the stuff on dyslexia, I was like, that's me, that's me, that's me. If you can't read that book because it's written in linear form and you've got dyslexia, get the audio book. That's how I did it. Yes.